Well, in today's Rural Money segment, we review the impact of post-death events on the valuation of farmland. Normally, assets in a descendant's estate are valued at fair market value as of the date of the death. However, post-death events can sometimes have an impact and also change that general rule. Joining us to examine those situations is Roger McEowen with the Washburn University School of Law. Roger, thanks for taking the time to chat with us as always. What post-death events are relevant for determining the actual date of death value of property and estate tax purposes?
Well, good morning, Janet. It's good to be with you. There are a number of things that can happen, and most of these are unexpected. And we think of sometimes weather-related events and disasters that can destroy property shortly after an individual dies. We think of market crashes. That can be stock market, that can be commodities market, that can be environmental-type issues, such as something that contaminates the property that happened before death but isn't discovered until several years after death. All of those events can have an impact on the value of the property in the decedent's estate.
Roger, do you have any relevant cases to share, maybe as an example?
Sure, I'll give you just a few. There are a lot of cases that are out there, but there was a case that the tax court decided back in 1994 where, as I was saying, environmental contamination wasn't discovered until 5 years after the decedent died, and the court allowed the estate to file a refund claim that reduced the value from the value as reported at the time of death, which was based on the facts known at the date of death. And that's an issue that can come up not infrequently in an agricultural setting. Another one, a big case, involving speculative post-death commercial development events for purposes of valuing farmland in the estate as of the date of death. Now, the farmland was about 15 miles north of downtown Kansas City. It was about 5 miles west of the Kansas City International Airport. But at the time of death, plans were in place for a sewer line to service the larger of two tracts that the decedent owned, and residential development was planned within 2 miles of that same tract. And this is particularly an issue that comes up in the eastern third of the United States, where you have more rural urban type fringe activities and more development that's around farmland. And so these are issues that can come up that will affect the value of property in the decedent's estate and, of course, affect the tax result.
Roger, what would you say is the biggest thing that folks need to keep in mind?
Well, again, keep in mind the general rule is we're going to value property as of the date of the decedent's death for purposes of income or estate tax purposes as well as for income tax basis. That value is going to peg basis in the hands of the heirs. So we want to watch post-death values closely, not just because there may be an estate tax issue, and for most people there won't be, but because we might be able to get a higher income tax basis on that property and still have the estate be lower than what would be estate taxable, but the heirs would get a higher income tax basis. So watch those post-death events closely. They can be very important.
Roger McEowen with the Washburn University School of Law. Roger, as always, thank you for joining us today. Well, in